One person that I thought was a really great leader is Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was born in a one-bedroom log house here in Kentucky in 1809. He grew up working on a farm, and at only 10 years old, his mother had passed away. But he grew up to be the 16th president in 1860 and was later assassinated in 1865 by John Wilkes Booth. Abraham Lincoln inspired a shared vision by presenting the Gettysburg Address. In this picture, he's actually presenting this to over 15,000 people. This speech was dedicated to the Founding Fathers' vision and all who served and died in the Union. The purpose of his speech was to present the idea that all men are created equal. So his vision was pretty much that the Union would have peace from then on out. In this picture, Abraham Lincoln is signing the Emancipation Proclamation, and that is a way that he challenged the process during his presidency. The document was to grant freedom to the slaves, but only if the Union won the war. He did run into obstacles, including the cabinet who disagreed and the abolitionist movement, which were those that were in favor of ending slavery. But he enforced the need to act on his decision as helping the Union instead of just ending slavery. So it was better for the people to agree with him on the act. There are several times during Abraham Lincoln's presidency that he modeled the way and was a wonderful role model for everyone, but I feel the best way he was a role model was by becoming a president from his upbringing. He pretty much came from nothing and didn't have barely any education or any role models to look after, and going as far as he did and being such a leader to everyone that he did was a great way that he showed his leadership and modeled the way. In this picture is Abraham Lincoln's cabinet, and he actually did not get along with his cabinet members very well because they all had different viewpoints and decisions on specific situations. And he was great at enabling others to act because he was known to be less demanding and more convincing. So he would treat everyone more as an individual so they felt more included and all around willing to make decisions. He actually let them make decisions on their own that he had to make, and he left it up to them. So it made them feel more as a team instead of his followers. This one is my favorite because Abraham Lincoln is visiting the wounded soldiers in the Union. He actually went and met up with the soldiers if they were wounded or if they were injured and thanked them for their service, and he made sure that he was very personable with them, and I feel like that really encouraged the heart because it showed that he was more of a president that cared about his people instead of just one that stayed to himself and didn't really enact with the people that he was leading. In this picture is actually the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., and this is bouncing off of him modeling the way. There is an inscription behind the big statue of Lincoln that says, "In this temple, as in the hearts of the people for whom he saved the Union, the memory of Abraham Lincoln is enshrined forever." So that in itself just shows how big of an impact he made then and now as well. I feel like Abraham Lincoln was more people-oriented and outgoing. Um, he was mostly influential and dominant strictly because he was the President of the United States, so he had to make sure he got results out of all of the decisions that he made, and he had to be very direct with his specific ideas on what he wanted to do. As far as influential, he did convince a lot of people, and he was very optimistic and friendly with all of the people that he led. Compliance, he did have to be very contemplative on every decision that he made because he had to make sure that he made the right decision. And steadiness, he was sincere to his people whenever he gave speeches, but I don't feel like he was as patient because he did have to act very quickly as president to certain situations. So I definitely believe that he was more of an I and a D. With the MBTI test, or the Myers-Briggs Indicator test, he was more of an extrovert out of the E and the I because he was the president, so he had to make speeches to several people. Out of the S and the N, he was more sensing because he had to be observant and know what was going on at all times with his people, and especially with the Union. As far as the T and the F, I feel like he was more of an F. Um, he was very friendly with all of his people. He did make sure he went out and knew what they were doing at all times and included himself with them. And as far as the J and the P, I feel like he was more as a J because he is task oriented and he didn't have to make sure that he was on top of things and made sure that all of his laws were passed and that everyone was agreeing with him and that he knew what he was doing at all times. So all in all, he would be a ESFJ. Abraham Lincoln was a transformational leader because he worked with subordinates to identify a specific change that he wanted to make. Um, he created a vision and guided his followers through the inspiration that he gave them to make that change and that vision happen. In conclusion, Abraham Lincoln was a wonderful leader. He did make a huge impact on those around him in the past, and specifically on America today. He did put a stop to slavery with the Emancipation Proclamation, and the Gettysburg Address became a huge icon of the United States that started out as wanting the Union to just be a whole, and now we are a united nation. He proved that it doesn't matter your upbringing, you can do as much as become the President of the United States, no matter where you come from or the education that you have. So I believe that he was a wonderful leader and he made a huge impact on everyone.